morning, Village Youth. Welcome to Junior Youth Online. My name's Noella, and I am so stoked you guys are here with us. We got some videos from the leaders planned today. We got some worship, and Colin's continuing our new series. It's gonna be so good. So sit back, relax, because we got a show for you.
You said to us that you weren't great with spice.
I'm not great with spice, but I'm a massive fan of hot ones. So when I heard that there's an opportunity to take this, I jumped in for it. So
That's awesome.
very nervous, very excited. I'm gonna go bright red for sure after like the first one. So
Well, I'm excited. We're gonna start off with Lottie's hot pepper sauce. This is the first one, and
Alright.
you don't have to eat the whole thing. Just have a bite.
Okay.
What do you think of that?
It's good.
Is it spicy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not bad. It's fine.
So, first question for you. What's the most useless talent that you have?
Oh. I want to say like speaking French. I took like that's not really a talent. I studied French for 12 years, but I
Oh,
don't,
so you're pretty good.
no. I like
Oh.
I can read it well. I can like write it well, but I can't speak it well. So it's like it's not really a talent, but like it's something that I have that I never use.
Yeah, I
so.
know. In school, I was convinced, they had me convinced that I was gonna use French all the time.
Yeah.
Not once.
Yeah. You just unless you're going to France, then like what's the point? But no one's traveling right now, so
Fair enough.
yeah.
Alrighty. Next, we're moving on to Pain 100%. This one packs a punch,
Okay.
and we're still moving up.
All right.
This stuff is about 3 times as spicy as the first one,
Okay.
so just be warned.
What about this one compared to that one?
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me. You know his love for
Back when I was a kid, my family and I had a really terrifying moment that happened. What happened was my little sister and I, we were hanging out in the backyard and we were just having fun, playing in the dirt, going on the swings and just having a great time on a summer day. What happened was that I decided to go inside to do some stuff inside for a little bit, and my little sister stayed outside. And what happened was maybe it was like 5 minutes later, my mom went outside to go check on my little sister. And so my mom called out my sister's name, but there was no response. So then my mom called out again, and there was still no response. And my mom called out again and there was still no response, and my mom started to get really nervous. So she called for me and we were outside, we were looking around, we couldn't find her anywhere. What happened was we went over to the side of the house and we noticed that the fence had been completely pushed over. The thing is that the fence, it wasn't quite being finished built yet. So what happened was that my little sister, being this little kid, like I said, she was 3 or 4 at the time, she pushed the fence right over, and she decided that it was an amazing opportunity for her to go on a quest to explore the neighborhood. But the problem for us is the fact that my little sister is lost. We're freaking out. My mom's freaking out. I run inside. I pick up the phone. I call 911. I'm like, you need to send the police department, the fire department. We need a search committee because my little sister is lost. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a moment and finish that story later. But guys, we are so excited that you could join us for Junior Youth Online. We are in the midst of a series called The Quest. And what we're going to do today is jump into a story about this guy named Zacchaeus, who was a guy that was lost, and he had this amazing interaction with Jesus. So we're going to hear about his story today for Junior Youth Online. So if you got your Bibles out, we're going to be opening up to Luke chapter 19, verses 1 to 10. If you don't have your Bible, you could just follow along on here. But let's dive into the story of Zacchaeus that we find in Luke chapter 19. This is what it says. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, look down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, 'He has gone to be the guest of a sinner.' But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, 'Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount.' Jesus said to him, 'Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost.'" You know, I absolutely love that story. What an amazing interaction that just took place. You know, for those of you who maybe are unfamiliar with the Bible, you're probably wondering, like, what's the big deal about Zacchaeus being a tax collector? Well, here's the thing about tax collectors. At that time, in that society, in that culture, tax collectors were people that worked for the Roman government. And the thing is that the Jewish people, they're under Roman rule, and essentially that the tax collectors, they were seen as traitors because they worked for the Roman government, they would collect taxes, but the thing is that they'd often collect more than they were supposed to, and they'd end up keeping more for themselves. So the thing about tax collectors in that society is they would have been seen as traitors, untrustworthy, they were seen as outcasts, and ultimately at the end of the day, they were people that were really hard to love and people that honestly most people wouldn't want to associate with. Do you know what I love about this story though? When we read about the interaction between Jesus and Zacchaeus, it's this beautiful interaction of love and embrace. Because even though Zacchaeus, he's seen as this guy that's a bit of an outcast, he's an outsider, he's someone that people don't want to associate with, we read in this story that he's someone that people called a sinner. That's exactly who Jesus wanted to spend time with. You know, Jesus, he didn't choose to, make him feel bad about himself. He wasn't making him feel like he was this horrible person. But he's like, Zacchaeus, you're a guy that I want to spend time with. Zacchaeus, you're a guy that I want to show love to. And Jesus, in this moment, he realized that Zacchaeus, in that moment, Zacchaeus wanted to turn away from his wicked ways. He wanted to turn away from the person that he once was. And Jesus knew that Zacchaeus wanted to be in relationship with him. And the beautiful thing about Jesus is that he doesn't turn him away. He doesn't make him feel like he's this horrible person, reminding him of his mistakes and his past. But rather, Jesus shows him love and embrace. Now, here's the thing is when I read a story like that, oftentimes I feel a little convicted. Because when I look back on my life, there have been many people in my life that have mistreated me. Back in school, I got really ripped off when it came to Pokemon trade deals. There's people at school that bullied me. There's people that just called me names, or people that mistreated me, or people that excluded me. There's people that just honestly annoyed me. And when I look back on my interactions with them, I can't say that I always showed them the love of Jesus. I can't always say that those were people that I tried to be intentional about showing love to. Oftentimes with people like that, I just want to push them away. I'd want to ignore them. I'd want to maybe mistreat them back because I felt that I deserved to be able to do so. But the thing about the story is we look at this interaction with Jesus, and Jesus does the very opposite. When it comes to this guy who's lost, who's broken, who's lived a life where he's mistreated a lot of people, where he's conned people, he's actually done things to bring about harm to people, Jesus actually chooses to show them love. And I know for myself, that's something that I haven't fully lived out on my own. But when we read a story like Jesus and Zacchaeus, when it comes to how we live our lives, when it comes to how we choose to treat people, we can't just get away with thinking that we can choose to ignore people that we don't like or to push them away, to just kind of ostracize them. But rather, we're confronted by a story like this to actually show those people love. So what does that look like for you in your life? Like maybe for you, there's someone at school that just drives you bonkers. They're just really annoying. You don't like spending time with them. The thing that Jesus is calling you to do in that moment is to show love and grace and to show God's love to that person. Maybe for you, it's a family member that frustrates you. Maybe it's a sibling or it's a cousin, or maybe there's someone at school that actually bullies you. I'm not saying that you're just supposed to allow yourself to be mistreated. You're not supposed to just be a doormat. But in that same breath, we are called to intentionally show love to those people. We're called to intentionally show love and forgiveness and grace to those people because that's exactly who Jesus is. And the fact is that that's the same love and grace that he's shown us in our lives. Because, for myself, when I get really honest and when I look at my own life, when I think of the love that Jesus has shown me, there's been a lot of mistakes that I've made in my life. There's a lot of things that I've done, if I get really honest, that I've done to maybe mistreat people. Because, for myself, I'm not a perfect person. And Jesus has shown me so much love and grace and forgiveness for me and my stuff. Because when I look at a story like this, it's easy for me to think like, oh, I just need to be, like Jesus and to show love. And yes, that's true. But oftentimes when I look at my life and how my life has been in my past, I'm a lot like Zacchaeus. I'm a guy that, has made mistakes. I'm a guy who was once lost. I'm a guy who's done things that have maybe hurt other people. And at the end of the day, I'm the one that's desperately needing forgiveness. So I think when we're confronted with a story like this, I think we have to get really honest with ourselves and realize that there's a lot more that we have in common with Zacchaeus than maybe we sometimes honestly want to admit. So when it comes to this series that we're in called The Quest, the quest to go and make disciples of all nations, the quest that we talked about in the Great Commission in Matthew chapter 28, the truth that we have to take away about the quest is this: the quest is about the lost. The quest is about the lost. So when it comes to this story of Zacchaeus, this guy who had made tons of mistakes, this guy that had caused harm to people, this guy that just most people didn't like, that's exactly who Jesus wanted to show his love to. So for us in our life, when it comes to the quest that Jesus is calling us into, we are called to show the love of Jesus to people that maybe we don't necessarily like. People that we would consider to be our enemies. Maybe people that don't necessarily see the world the same way as us. Maybe they believe different things. They're people that we wouldn't normally associate with. The reason that we do that is not because they deserve it, but because Jesus has shown that to us. Because when it comes to the reality of the gospel, Jesus came down for the lost. He came and lived a perfect life. He died a brutal death for our sins. And because of that, we were able to experience forgiveness. And that forgiveness, it was paid for by Jesus. And that's the love and the grace that we're meant to show other people. So when it comes to this whole embarking on the quest, it's not just about showing love to people that we get along with or people that we think that, that we normally like or that we want to spend time with, but to show love to the people that maybe actually even cause harm to us in our lives, because that's the grace and love that Jesus has shown us. And do you know what's really interesting about people that we know in our lives that are lost? People that we know that don't necessarily know Jesus, oftentimes they don't even know that they're lost. Just to finish my story about my little sister, what happened was we were searching everywhere for her. We had the police looking around, the fire department. My mom was a mess. My dad was a mess. I was terrified. We had no idea where my sister was. One of my dad's friends talked to my dad on the phone and he said, "Hey, have you checked any of the local parks?" And we're like, "No." So we went to a park that was maybe a kilometer away from my house. And I remember my parents, they show up there and lo and behold, my little sister is there playing with some other kids that were in the park. We were super relieved, but also super frustrated. We were thinking like, what are you doing? Like, why are you just hanging out in the park? Why'd you go for this long walk? And obviously she's just a little kid. She had no idea what she was doing. But here's the thing. My little sister, she was lost, but she didn't even know she was lost. She thought she was just having fun, doing her own thing, going in whatever direction that she wanted to go in. And how often is that like us or people that we know in our lives who are lost? Oftentimes they don't even know that they're lost. They think they're just living life the way that they're meant to live it and yada, yada, yada. But the truth and the reality is that those people need to come and know Jesus. And when we come to know Jesus, we come to understand that we were lost. We were straying far away. We thought we were just having fun and doing our own thing and following the ways that we thought were right. But at the end of the day, Jesus has a heart for the lost. Jesus wants to seek and save the lost. And that's what he's calling you to do as a junior youth student, to be a part of that quest. So junior youth, in reflection to what we just talked about, how are you going to live out this part of the quest? Who do you know in your life that maybe you don't necessarily get along with, that you get frustrated with? Maybe it's that family member that just drives you bonkers. Maybe it's that kid at school that you don't normally spend time with. How are you going to choose to show the love of Jesus to that person? How are you going to choose to start praying for that person? How are you going to choose to maybe just be able to be generous to that person? Maybe they don't have, lunch that day and you're going to choose to share your lunch with them. Maybe you're going to choose to just sit with them and to be able to spend time with them, to hear their story. How are you going to choose to show love to people that you know in your life that are lost? Junior youth, thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. We do have some discussion questions for you to think through, to be able to think through more about what we just talked about. But junior youth, you are called into a quest by Jesus exactly where you're at. And just know that you're so loved. And we're so excited to tune in with you guys next week as we continue our conversation. So junior youth, love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
What an awesome time together. We are so happy you guys joined us this week. We hope you enjoyed the message, and make sure you go through those discussion questions because those will be good. We'd love to get connected with you, so feel free to email us at villageyouth@thisisvillagechurch.com. We love you so much, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye!